Solving a Rubik's Cube is hard, and even harder without looking. But what if there were 12 sides instead of just 6? This is the Megaminx, and I'm gonna try to solve it blindfolded. So I first tried to do that without practice, but after only memorizing the puzzle for about 10 minutes, my brain was fried and I'd somehow made basically zero progress. But that was strange because I can easily memorize and solve the 20 pieces of a normal Rubik's Cube without looking, and I've dealt with much harder memory challenges before. So I had to figure out why it was so much harder, but then I realized. On the normal Rubik's Cube, I know the color scheme super well, so I can memorize it really quickly. Blue, red, yellow, white, orange, green. But on the Megaminx, if I had to try to do the same, blue, red, white, yellow's here, I remember being there for some reason, green. This might be purple, this pink I think. I'm filming this after I've actually done the Megaminx solves already, so the fact that I'm still struggling is saying something. But the main difficulty is that 6 of the colors don't exist on a normal Rubik's Cube, so I'm just not used to it at all. So while I can memorize which piece goes to where really quickly on the normal Rubik's Cube, but on the Megaminx, not quite as fast. Well, I practiced it a bit before filming this already, so. But it was much worse before. And because I'm memorizing so slowly, I'd have to review my memorization many times before I feel comfortable to start solving. So to fix this, I had to practice memorizing the puzzle with my eyes open so I could get a better sense of the Megaminx color scheme and which pieces were meant to go where. And while getting a better feel of the colors helped a lot with memorization, I ran into another problem before I even started making my first turn. To make it easier to memorize these twisty puzzles, we have letters assigned to all the stickers of each piece type to make it easier to memorize. Did I say easier to memorize already? Anyway, for example, take this 2x2 Rubik's Cube. It's only made out of corner pieces, and there are only 24 stickers on them, meaning that you can assign one letter of the alphabet to all of the stickers, combine them to make words, and then images, stories, etc. to make it easier to memorize. But on dodecahedral puzzles like the Megaminx or the Kilominx, you can't do that because there are too many stickers. So you have to assign 2 letters to each sticker unless you want to do some other weird stuff. This is fine, but it did mean that it would feel like I was memorizing the equivalent of 2 Megaminxes instead of just 1, which obviously made things harder. And I wasn't sure about how to do this at first, but fortunately, some guy has done this before in like 5 minutes somehow, and he recommended labeling the first letter based off the color of the face. So for example, this whole face would be P because this is the purple face, and then using the second letter to indicate the locations, so PA, PB, PC, PD, and PE. But of course, there's also a pink here which starts with the letter P too, so you have to come up with exceptions, and maybe making pink like K instead, so KA, B, KC, KD, KE, at least for the corners. But you can do the same for the edges in the middle too. And with that in mind, I could actually memorize the puzzle in a reasonable amount of time, and then I could start trying to turn it. So I tried using a simple method called Old Pockman, which involves swapping just 2 pieces at a time. But if I do the algorithm that's mostly used in this method, it looks really different on the Megaminx. You'll see they don't really do the same thing. The other option is to use the advanced method, which you saw me do at the beginning of the video, but doing that on the Megaminx would require too much brain power, so I decided to rule that out as well. But fortunately, and I got this from the tutorial from the same guy I mentioned before, you can use something called a Rosco with Setup Muse, which is an intermediate method which has a good sort of compromise between both the advanced and beginners methods. And fortunately, the algorithms aren't too different from what you might see on a normal Rubik's Cube. So once again, I went to work doing a lot of attempts with my eyes open before trying to do the attempts in full once more. But as you can see from my first few attempts, it looked like I was scrambling the puzzle more than I was actually solving it, which is a problem. Especially because the solving process is so long and I really can't be bothered going back to the footage and seeing exactly where things went wrong. And I figured it was better practice to just do sided solves and check for mistakes during those instead. Doing an algorithm blindfolded, checking the error, and then vice versa. Not vice versa, and then repeating the process over and over again. But from my experience blind solving normal Rubik's Cubes, I probably did a turn wrong rather than memorize something wrong. Because usually when I memorize something wrong, it's just a few pieces out, like the cube would look something like that, or dodecahedron, but since it's a total mess, even like 1 or 2 wrong misturns can throw the whole cube into a scramble. Also with the Rosco method, you have to alternate between doing an algorithm A and an algorithm B depending on which piece you're solving. And if I do like one instead of the other randomly, then I screw up as well. And things seemed to get better because my Megaminx didn't end
Oh,
up being
no.
completely
Oh,
scrambled
man.
at the end of my attempts.
Oh.
But I also ran into another
So
unexpected problem. I was just zoning out in the middle of solves because it was taking forever. And usually I wouldn't be a huge deal in all the tasks, but obviously when you're trying to solve a puzzle blindfolded, you need to be 100% perfect. So that was a pretty big problem. So I had to find a good balance between too slow so that I lose concentration and too quickly so I miss turn anyway. I still veered more towards the quick side, but I think that seemed to help. And then after several attempts, this happened. Oh my god, I did it. Yes. Oh.